1 second. All right.
There we go.
Hey everybody. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. For those of you who don't know, this is part of the Fids and Fibers 2019 US tour. We've been on the road for 4 months. And I found myself in Minneapolis right down the street from this guy, Tom Dunlap, who's been a friend of mine for almost 20 years, on and off, online and in real life. For those of you who don't know, I'm Mark from Fids and Fibers, also creating a safety training program called the Growth Ring, which is arborist personal development. And I'll be posting videos on YouTube that I do interviews and talk with different arborists around the world and get their views on different topics. So today I wanted to sit down with Tom and talk about social media, because Tom has been in the industry long enough that he was pre-social media, and now he's still active at a time when social media is super on fire. So I wanted to introduce Tom, and say thank you for starting TreeBuzz back in 2002.
2002.
Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit about how TreeBuzz worked back then? What was the...
Well, Mark Chisholm had given me a call the winter before and asked if I wanted to partner up on that. And I said, sure. So Mark's idea, and we just talked on the phone a few different times to kind of come up with this idea, this design idea, what we wanted TreeBuzz to be. There weren't a lot of arborist discussion forums at the time. I'm pretty sure that the ISA discussion forum, which was the very first arborist discussion forum, I think that had been shut down, or it was winding down. I'm not sure exactly. But we wanted to have something more than that. So we came up with these ideas, and Mark had a company, a tech company, that could do all the things behind the keyboard that I know nothing about. I know what goes on this side of the keyboard, but all the other sort of stuff, we have people that are professionals that handle that, just like we take care of the trees, and we do the housekeeping at TreeBuzz. So it's on this side, and things have changed on TreeBuzz over the years. Some of the original posters are still involved. New people come and go, and the forums are still a real valid piece of our communication and connection.
Yeah. That's interesting. I know I myself don't participate as much as I used to, because now I have other avenues. But I always hear that people are saying that TreeBuzz is still just as valuable as always. And one of the cool things about it is that there's a search facility where you can go back and listen to all the conversations, read all those conversations all the way back into the very beginning, and that way you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So TreeBuzz.com is a place to go, just get yourself an account and spend a few nights with a cup of coffee or a beer and just read and get involved. But so TreeBuzz itself, for me, when I first logged on, it was an eye-opener. And we were talking over lunch today about what it was like before the forum. And so maybe you could tell us about that story about the fax machine. Copy.
Yeah. When Jason Blake was promoting the Blake's Hitch, and I don't know what the years were, but in kind of a technological timeline, he had published this article in, I think it was Arbor Age magazine, and made a video of it, and then people were using it. So some of my buddies around town here that I'd see at the workshops and stuff, the Minnesota Society of Arboriculture events, or see at work or whatever, we had heard about this Blake's Hitch and heard a lot of really good things, but nobody really knew what it was like. Well, in our network of phone call circles, somebody called me and said, I got a fax copy of the Blake's Hitch that somebody had faxed to them. And I said, well, good, well, let's get together and look at it. And I was thinking of just he and I. And I said, no, wait a minute. And we made a few phone calls, and I think we had 7 of us that got together for coffee or a slice of pie some evening. And we got together, and this friend of mine had taken this fax copy, which was about 3rd or 4th generation fax, and then he had made a photocopy for each of us to have. So again, this is a generational thing. If you've never seen a fax copy, much less a 3rd generation fax copy, it's really pixelated. It's fuzzy. But this is what we had, and making phone calls on landlines. I think cell phones were being used then, but whatever, it was then. So, but the information, the technology was there to use the fax. And this is at a time when we didn't have home fax machines. This is one where somebody would take it to an office because we didn't have that home fax machine. So we had that, and we got together and we looked at it, and then 6 or 7 of us were there going, wow, this is really cool. Well, let's try it out, and let's get together, in a week or two, maybe 2 weeks or so, and see how things had gone, how it had worked out. And so we all scattered, started climbing on it, and compared notes. A couple weeks later, we got together again and compared notes on it, and we said the first thing that we all agreed on was that we didn't have to tie a stop or not, which was a huge improvement over a taw line hitch not rolling out. And it was like, you just all of a sudden you just stop using that. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to consciously do it. It's like we just knew, okay, it doesn't move. I don't need to tie that stop or not.
So this is really interesting for me because it's all the same thing. It's the advancement of technology. So today, for all you younger folks, guys and girls who were looking at this, thinking, wow, back when the Blake's hitch was new, they were getting together and actually talking face to face. And imagine how that circle of information was so tight, and then it was rippling out slowly. It would take years for that to travel over the whole country. Whereas now, you make a Facebook post or an Instagram post or a YouTube video, and in 24 hours, there might be 1,000 views that hit every pocket of the country and all around the world. And so the idea behind this video is to talk about the way that these guys cared about each other enough to call each other, get a cup of coffee, sit around together and share this thing it was difficult to get the faxes, the copies, and share it. But they respected each other enough, and they thought highly enough of each other to invite each other and to share this thing and then to look at it and to really be critical about how it worked and help each other. In our new social media age, one of the things that I think is missing is that respect, that kindness, that caring, because we all know when you put a Facebook post up or an Instagram post up, sometimes there's a guy that just always has that negative comment, or someone says something unkind instead of advancing the information, the kindness, the love, the brethren, the safety of what we're all doing. So this is a reminder that even back when it was difficult to share information, that we were actually doing it in a kind fashion. And that's when it wasn't easy. Now that it's really easy, I'm hoping that you'll recognize that there's more bandwidth to be kind to each other. So on TreeBuzz, when you first started moderating TreeBuzz and the posts started piling up, how was it as a moderator? Did you notice that everyone was super happy when it first opened, and then over time it got more acidic, or was it, what was it? How did that work?
Well, my experience is kind of this continuity from the ISA forum, which was ISA didn't moderate it. They just did the software on a server at Southern Illinois. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have anybody from ISA moderating it. So those of us that were on there kind of became the moderators. We self-moderated. Yeah. And we'd have for the most part, everybody was very friendly, very helpful and sharing stuff and moving forward. But every once in a while we would get that guy, and at that time there were very few women in the profession, and this is the tree climbing part of it, the field work side. But this guy was being a total jerk, and nobody could moderate it, nobody could turn his switch off. So I started sending out email, and I thought, we're going to shun this guy. We're not going to talk to him. We're going to totally ignore and not react to everybody. So us group, this cabal, you could say, that self-appointed moderators to keep things friendly, we just sent notes to our friends and to other people. Don't comment about him. Don't comment. Just let it go. Don't say a word. Don't agree. Don't disagree. And just let it go quiet. And pretty soon he left. Because I got bullied. Everybody, I think, got bullied. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time to listen to my mom and dad say, just ignore him. And it's kind of hard not to get sucked into a bully thing, yeah. Especially if you're stronger than who's ever bullying. And you could pop them and win, but that's not the thing to do.
Right.
You put it down and you handle it another way. Just let it go. and we just shunned him until it didn't react, and pretty soon it was gone.
So that's a different kind of maturity,
Right?
A leadership that you show to show kindness, or just to let that person think about their thoughts, by themselves.
Yeah.
So in the new social landscape with Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, are you on all those platforms?
I follow Facebook, some YouTube stuff, but it just ends up being, to me, I have a certain amount of time in my life that I give to different pieces. I slice my time up.
Yeah.
Even though I'm retired, it's like I don't need to do that, so I don't follow them very often.
Yeah. When you watch a YouTube video, do you actually scroll down and read the comments also?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I rarely comment on any of them because by the time I get to most of the YouTube stuff, somebody's either critical or they've taken the pot shots, funny and nasty, or they've laid on the compliments, because there are some really educational, really well done YouTube videos, and there's, unfortunately, like any system, there's too much of watching a face cut being put in a tree, like no editing.
Yeah.
And it's just, to have to fast forward, or whatever, it's like, okay, what are you trying to show here? Not put a face cut in a tree.
And we've watched 20 years worth of that.
Right, we know what that looks like. We want to see that last 2 inches of the back cut, not all the rest of the stuff. So I don't follow many of the other mediums, and I find that for me, I get enough of that. Some of the value is gone, and I do other things in my life. I go and work in the shop and everything.
So do you find that the comments have changed over 20 years' time? That in the beginning it was more civil, more kind, more helpful, and now it's more acidic? Or do you think that it all balances out, in time?
I think with the looking at the population, because having gone from the ISA forum and sinking into TreeBuzz, and knowing that the group of people are there and the number of comments and I don't do any kind of audit, or check marks or anything like that, but just having a sense of the volume of comments and then identifying what they're like. Are they just nasty, stuff that like I just want to cut off, but I don't. I moderate with a very much a velvet glove. We very rarely ever delete comments or delete people. We give them a chance.
Yeah.
And escalate, just like any kind of human resources. But I don't think that there's any in any group. I don't think there's any more. It's just that we've got more groups,
more voices,
and somebody will start a Facebook page, and if you look at that group that's on that Facebook page with that specific interest, there's probably just as the distribution of the tension and from loving and caring and neutral to the other end of the spectrum of the nastiness. There's just as much, but there's more.
Yeah.
And so
someone turn the volume up over time.
It's so easy to have volume. It's so easy to have volume, and there's no the lack of any kind of editing or lack of any kind of moderating sometimes gets a little frustrating, because somebody will come in and they don't know how to teach, and they a comment will come in when they'll start swinging a baseball bat around, which is not a very good way. It isn't necessary to teach that way. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you got to just throw people out, but you don't generally have to do that first.
Yeah.
And so it leads to some bad tension instead of just de-escalating.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. I really wanted to interview Tom for you guys because he's actually one of my mentors. He taught me how to treat each other through the ways that he's moderated over the years. The thoughtfulness and the care and the precision that he's put into TreeBuzz all these years had a real big effect on me as a beginner in the field. So I knew how to act, how to speak, when to act and when to speak. And when I was wrong, to be humble and say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. So I want to say thank you, Tom, for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Big hug.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Bye.